After an exciting men's final yesterday, the women's final kicked off this morning. And what a final it was, literally coming down to the last attempt on the lead before the gold medalist was decided. The event was kicked off by none other than climbing legend Catherine Destiville on what was apparently the hottest day of the Olympics so far, so not ideal conditions for the competitors. Within the bouldering, problem 1 started with a run and jump, which looked awkward to catch. From here, a sideways dyno led to a pink pocket, and more massive moves followed, with a dyno to a clamp finish, which looked horrendous to catch. This presented some serious issues for the route specialists, especially Japan's Ai Mori and Korea's Chaeun So, who failed to pick up a single point. On the flip side, it was good for the boulderers, but it all came down to attempts. USA's Brooke Raboutou managed to complete the problem on her 4th go. Jessie Pilz from Austria and Erin McNeice from GB managed to do it on their 2nd go. And Oceana McKenzie from Australia, Oriane Berthaud from France, and Janja Garnbret from Slovenia all managed to get the flash. No competition is complete without a slab, and the Olympics is no exception. Problem 2 featured a yellow series of highly marginal volumes and a particularly awkward move around a pirouette. Once again, this was a tough problem for the route specialists, with So only managing the low zone and I the high zone. For the boulderers, it once again came down to attempts. Jessie managed it on her 5th attempt, Oceana, Brooke and Janja on the 3rd, Oriane on her 2nd, and finally Erin McNeice managed the flash, the only competitor to do so that day. After the 2nd problem, just 0.4 points separated the top 5 climbers. With the narrowest of narrow margins, problems 3 and 4 needed to split the field. And this is exactly what they did. Problem 3 was undoubtedly the power test piece of the day and looked absolutely brutal. The effect it had on competitors was extreme, splitting the field more so than any other problem within the finals. Surprisingly, Erin and Oriane failed to come away with any points, which will have been a huge blow to their score were they to be looking to finish within the medals. Which they were. So Oceana and Jessie managed to get through to the low zone, but it was Ai Mori who managed to provide the first top of the day in unbelievable style, climbing it like it was a route and trying to rest and recover on her way through. But she did so on her 3rd attempt. With the final 2 competitors coming out, Brooke Raboutou managed to complete it on her 2nd attempt, and Janja provided the only flash of the day, once again looking imperious in her style. Problem 4 featured a lâché start into an awkward coordination jump and another huge move to finish. 5 athletes made the high zone: So, Erin, Oriane, Brooke and Janja, with the remaining 4 hitting the low zone. But the big news from problem 4 was Janja Garnbret showing her first and only signs of weakness. There was obviously something wrong with her left hand, a finger on her left hand, and she was visibly upset after falling. We'd subsequently learned that she had trapped it between 2 holes, which was a major part of the issue. And there were genuine concerns as to whether or not this was a sign of something major, and whether or not she was even going to be on the start line within the lead that was going to take place in barely a few minutes' time. Going into the lead, Janja and Brooke were leagues apart from everyone else, with scores of 84.4 and 84 respectively. Beyond that, things were extremely tight, with 0.4 points separating competitors between 3rd and 6th in the field. And this consisted of Oceana, Erin, Oriane and Jessie. So it looked like it was going to be Janja and Brooke battling it out for gold and the rest for bronze. However, the big question was, how badly injured was Janja's finger and what impact was it going to have on her? According to the route setters, this is the hardest route that has ever been set in a competition, ever. Now, the reason being is that they were hoping that athletes would fight to that top, and fight they did. From a spectator perspective, this route seemed never ending as it snaked up through the wall and was definitely a fantastic piece of route setting to watch. The black section low down looked trickier than competitors might have liked and didn't provide that smooth introduction. The blue section that followed looked steep, hard and powerful, sapping any strength that the competitors may have had left. This led into a compression sequence on pink holds, which looked similarly strength sapping, and lo and behold, another blue section above, which just looked ridiculously sustained. Cheon-seo made it look easy until it didn't, getting high up into the blue section before having to down climb, misreading a sequence and not quite managing to get a hold. At this point, it looked like she'd be off immediately. People tend not to rest on Olympic route finals, but she managed to fight on for a few more moves before coming off. However, due to her poorer performance within the bouldering earlier, was not in a medal position. From a UK climbing perspective, we are understandably biased by Erin McNeice and the performance she has had so far. Within the lead finals, she did look in trouble from early on, not necessarily looking her usual smooth self. But she turned this around in a style I think that no other competitor could offer. And from low down within that blue section, just battled and fought onwards, initially through the pink and then into the blue, before eventually falling in a provisional first place. As a bouldering specialist, Oceana Mackenzie was always going to find this route difficult, but impressed with her form, making it through the blue section lower down and stalling when she got into the pink compression section. Unfortunately, this landed her outside of the podium, but it was an impressive performance nonetheless. Home favourite Oriane Bertone came out with the crowd on side, but sadly fell below where we had expected due to an accidental foot slip, and this meant she was out of the medals. Next up was Ai Mori from Japan. I needed something truly spectacular in the lead in order to make up for a relatively poor performance within the bouldering, requiring a height of 88.6 in order to make it to that first place. And if possible, go even further in order to build that buffer. Remember, there are still plenty of other talented athletes yet to come. Now, the display that I put on was truly memorable. She simply levitated up the wall, not really stopping at any point, and carrying on a very smooth, consistent pace, up and up and up, until she was eyeballing the finishing hold, which she managed to touch but didn't catch. And this put her in a provisional first place. Brooke Raboutou was the next out. Now, Brooke had a high score within the bouldering, so had a good buffer already, but she did have to make it high up the wall. She looked much like I, exceptionally smooth and very calm and relaxed, making it through the blue lower section, into the pinks and into that higher blue section before her foot slip caused her to fall. However, it was enough to guarantee her a medal, but what colour that medal was depended on the next two competitors. Jessie Pilz needed a top in order to beat Brooke, and she made it high up the head wall and just a few moves from the top before eventually falling. She had exceptional fight throughout, and it was great to see her dig deep, and it was clear how emotional she was and how much this meant to her. She was, after all, guaranteed a medal, but with one competitor to come out, Janja Garnbret, and her form and finger in question, what was going to happen? Janja looked nervous as she stepped onto the mat, but the moment she stepped onto the wall just looked like Janja, levitating upwards, making it all look cool, calm and relaxed, getting through the heights required to reach that bronze, silver and eventually gold before falling off shortly above, and upon being lowered to the ground, broke down in tears. This was obviously a hugely emotional moment, not just for her, but for all of us. Not being sure as to how her finger was after that bouldering round, and seeing her raise the game as she has time and time again, cements her place not only as a double Olympic gold medalist, but also as the greatest competitor of all time. It also secured Brooke's place as Olympic silver medalist and Jessie Pilz as Olympic bronze. Britain's Erin McNeice finished in 5th with an incredible performance, and one with no doubt she'll build on for LA 2028. Credit where it's due to the route setters, both within the bouldering and the lead today, because they have done an exceptional job of splitting the field and also providing a really entertaining programme to watch. In both the men's and the women's, who has won gold has all fallen down to the last person to come out and climb, which is hugely entertaining and moderately terrifying. Whilst we really enjoyed watching the Olympics in Tokyo, Paris 2024 has been a huge step up in terms of quality. Splitting speed out from the combined format has just made the speed better, and in turn, keeping just lead and bouldering has not only made it more simple from a points perspective and easier to understand from an audience point of view, it's also made it better from the competitors as well. But here's to hoping that by the time that LA 2028 is upon us, we have separate medals for both lead and boulder. Although I still think I would watch the combined format, it definitely adds a greater sense of jeopardy, starting with the bouldering and then going into the lead afterwards.
When Janja Garnbret fell off high on the lead route and took an awkward tumble as she fell, she lowered and looked out to the crowd to try and see how she'd done, and as soon as she heard that she'd won, she just collapsed to the ground in tears, started hugging all the other athletes, just so many emotions. I think it was quite clear that the second medal meant even more to her than her historic first gold in Tokyo 2020. I caught up with Janja afterwards, and when I asked her whether this medal meant even more to her than her one in Tokyo, she said, "I cannot compare it. I mean, I will forever be first Olympic gold medalist, but defending the title is also sweet, if not even sweeter. It's shining so bright, this one," she said, pointing to her medal. "So I'm really happy that I got it. Honestly, I came here for one medal alone, and that was gold. Anything else would have meant an unsuccessful Olympics for me. I'm just so proud of myself that I could pull it off." She explained that she injured her finger on Boulder 4. She said, "I had a bit of a scary moment on Boulder 4 because my finger got stuck in between two holds at the top and I was scared that I'd fractured something. But still, I didn't care if I was missing a hand or a finger. I said I would go out there and climb the lead route and just enjoy it. I just kept telling myself, it's just like in training. Just do it like in training and everything will be all right." And I pulled it off. I also spoke to silver medalist Brooke Rabatu, who was incredibly happy. She was getting hugged by Shauna when we met her. She talked a lot about a growth mindset that she's gone through over the last couple of years. And when I asked her how she felt after the boulder round, when she was sort of in the lead with Janja Garnbret, she said, "I honestly didn't look at any scores after the boulder round. I obviously knew that I'd done really well. I was really happy with my climbing, but I felt pretty calm after. I just felt like I learned quite a lot from the qualifying events in Shanghai and Budapest as well. It's easy to celebrate a good score in boulder and then lose focus. So I just wanted to take the lead climb as it was, no matter what had happened before, good or bad, and just climb relaxed." It's certainly been an eventful 6 days at Le Bourget, and yeah, lots to unpack, lots to process, but I'll have a rest first and do that in due course. I hope you've enjoyed the updates and hopefully see you in LA 2028.
Thanks to you, our audience, for tuning in, and see you in 2028, if not somewhat before.